Welcome to Carolina Sculpture Studio. My name's Clint Button, and I'm a granite sculptor. Welcome to video number 52 of the virtual stone carving apprenticeship. Okay, we've had some comments. You never know if comments that aren't positive are just people that are actually have a concern, or if they're trolling or spam or whatever, because it seems to be some of both. But, and people that don't even read the description to find out links and stuff like that. There's some people that are raising concerns about lighting in these videos and how light, see if we do this, how light tends to wipe out the video. You know, the light's too strong, they can't see what I'm doing, especially on the stone. Well, let me show you a few things. I took some video during the day today, some different times, to show you how the light changes in studio and how I have to adapt to it and how I have to work with it. I'll try not to explain too much now because I talk about it during these segments. I don't want to just, go over stuff again and again and bore y'all, because your time's valuable, just like mine. But this is real time. This is doing it, to earn a check. And I don't do a bunch of retakes. I can't go back and uncut a piece of stone or cut 3 or 4 of them in order to have multiple shots going and see which edit looks the best. When I turn the light on, it's because I need the light, because I need to be able to see. If I didn't need the light, I wouldn't turn it on. Because it costs me money to run a light bulb. So the different material handles light in different ways. You get a reflection from the oily surface on the clay. The crystalline structure of the stone, all the crystals really bounce the light, and even a hot light will make plywood, go completely white. You can't even see that on screen. So we'll skip to some video I shot earlier today. That's the end of the day now, and shot some stuff earlier to show you at different stages how the light changes in the studio. These new cameras auto balance light, they auto correct. And that's good and bad. It can, I use poor lighting in here. Generally, it's usually too dark to work when I'm shooting video. And whenever I have to actually do anything, especially on the stone, I can't get video because I got to turn the light on so I can see what I'm doing so I don't make a mistake. Because if I screw it up, I got to replace it, and I can't. That's not the way this works. I got one shot to get it right. So we'll watch these different things here and see if it helps y'all understand. And I point out in the videos, if you want to understand how to make the light work for you, come on to studio, spend some time here, learn about it. And you'll see that you've got to be able to control your light. The romantic idea of having big skylights and just so much light that it just lights up everything, I don't know, man. For what we do, especially where so much of it is in bas relief, you've got to be able to control your light to produce the right surface and the right landscape or profiles of all your different aspects of your carving in order to make a carving that really demonstrates well out in the cemetery. Because otherwise, if you carve it perfectly smooth and make it, well, the way people may think you're supposed to make it, you're just going to have a bald looking thing there with a couple eyeballs and some lips on it, and it ain't going to look good. So check out these videos and see what you think. Getting a number of comments about lighting and how it's washing out what I'm doing video. When I'm shooting video, the light blows everything up and you can't see anything. Well, yes and no. That is true. So let me give you a little perspective on what there is to deal with. This is standing outside my studio looking in. Right now, it's completely overcast, about 8:15 in the morning, with no sunlight. That's how dark the studio is, okay? That's too dark for me to work. Now let's walk in here and see what the camera does and how it brightens everything up as I come in. Now, it's grainy, but that's about twice as bright as how everything is in studio right now. I've got my lamp set up right here, pointed straight ahead, and it's 8 to 10 feet away from the clay. So I turn it on, and you can see the reflection of the oil in the plastilina there again, especially on her lower body. This lights her up quite a bit. Makes it to where the light is problematic to work because you've got such strong shadows that anything that's not in direct path of the light is completely black. So now let's carry this light over and see how it looks, especially if I drop it down and shine it right on her. Okay, that's pretty bright. And that's good for me to work, but it's almost too bright for you to see. If this is a piece of stone, let's see if we can just pull this up. Here, if we shine this on this piece of granite, this same light, see that? It just blows it up and to where you literally can't tell what you're doing. And if it's direct, the camera just can't handle it. So, even when I hold it close to her, I get a lot of reflection. This is one of the reasons that lighting is so critical. You'll notice if you watch other videos of them carving stone, they typically don't have any artificial light and they don't have any strong light at all. There's a reason for that, because it reflects, especially with granite and marble, it reflects on these crystals. Now, if you work outside in total light, what that does is the light is so overwhelming that you won't have anything of consequence for shadows. It'll mute shadows. It'll eliminate a lot of that value where you have a gradient and you can't read it as well. When you produce this work, when you're carving it, even when you're modeling it, you have to be able to control the light. That's why I don't have big skylights and big windows. And everyone talks about plein air and how wonderful it is to work outside. Okay, if you're painting and you've got two dimensions to work in, where you're going to fake everything else, and the only profile you've got, maybe, within, I don't know, 1/4 inch, 3/8 of an inch on how you stack on paint with palettes, with palette knives. Yeah, I guess it's technically sculptural, but it isn't in general. You have to be able, for monochromatic work like this that you're going to do in stone, that you're not going to patina and paint it in fake shadows like you do with bronze. You have to be able to manage your light, because you have to be able to create all of the different, let's see if I can get this. You have to be able to create all those nuances. As you see, that light's just right there at her head. It even wipes out the wood. So you have to be able to move your light to read the shape completely. Now, the bust is still getting a little bit of tweaking. I haven't been happy with her eyes, because I have to be able to look at her straight ahead, from down here, and from both sides. The only way somebody's not probably going to look at her in the cemetery is from up here. But this should justify, every different direction should look correct when you're producing this job, because like I said before, if you look at it and it doesn't look right, that's because it's not right and you need to fix it. And I've not been happy with her large head. Now, I can't tell you how many faces I've done in this scale and smaller. This is very typical, and you just whip it out, and you can only put about so much detail in there to make it work for regular stone. But for larger work, you've got to be more careful, and you've got to get your anatomy straightened out better, whether it's for accuracy or for the stylization for the genre that you're working in. So, I will tell you one of the things about this work and the lighting and making it hard to see, that the lighting may make it difficult to see. I'm not carving this work for fun. These are all jobs that are accepted. I didn't sell the squared block of granite. I did that to show y'all something to do so you can actually learn how to hold the tools, use the tools, have a reason to practice sharpening the tools, everything. But all of these regular jobs, you know, from the girl and dog to the crucifix to the gargoyle to this Mooney Angel, everything. All these jobs, these are paid. I'm not going to cut 3 of them and show you the best video footage of certain details on one of 3 jobs. This is the job. This is the only time I'm going to cut it probably, and it's got to sell. So I don't have the option to play games like a lot of people do on YouTube and make multiples or redo something like they do on some types of videos. And the other thing that makes it really hard to see what I'm doing is if I don't do video of it, because there won't be anything to see. So when I turn the light on and things disappear, bear with me, they're still there. They're going to look better when I shut the light off. If you don't understand it, come to studio. Come here and actually learn how to do it. This isn't a game. I'm not playing. This is real work. And this isn't an academic exercise. So, but the lighting that we use in studio, I have to control it. See, I turned the light off. See how black that went? That's how this looks without the light. But I come up here closer on the camera, and it's not too bad. My light moves in usually by, well, depending on time of the year, by about 3 o'clock in the afternoon. I've usually got so much light that bounces off of this clay floor that it lights up under. The light will bounce and come up underneath to wipe out a lot of shadows. It softens a lot of the shadows. And it's good to be able to see how it changes the way it looks, because I have to put the stone out in the cemetery and it has to manage all of the harsh light. But the harsh light makes it very difficult to see things completely in order to do a good job carving. So as this light progresses, because I got western face, and I've also got some trees to help moderate the light, usually between 2 and 3 o'clock in the afternoon, I'm starting to get a lot of bounce. And that bounce will wipe out my light. The further back I work in the studio, the longer I can work. So, but lighting's really important. I talked about it a little bit before. You know, people talk about wanting to have all this natural light and tons of light. Great. Doesn't work for me, man, because I have to be able to control what I'm doing. Most of the light, most of the work is bas relief. The light's going to be coming perfectly vertical down the face of the die, so I can use my lamp that you can barely see right now in order to cast light straight down the face of the die by how I orient it, whether it's, you know, laid on its back and the light's pointing forward, or whether this is above and the light's shining down. Then I know how it's going to demonstrate in the cemetery. And before it goes, we usually move it towards the door to wash it with the sunlight to see how much it wipes out, because then we have to accentuate and put certain detail in, shoot it deep in order to make certain details pop. And that's part of the stylization and part of the genre. Those things, just like African motifs, where they, you know, took portrait faces and they eventually turned into stylized faces so they could be shared among different tribes or different regions, and people understood this represented the same entity, and not just a likeness of a specific person, but they reached a point where they were almost like, you know, the letter A is different than the letter B. It was easy to recognize. We have to do some things with this where the protocol of the genre wins. So, but along the way, light's really important. And if you work with too much light, you can't see what you're doing. If you work with too little light, you can't see what you're doing. For comparison, it's 10 o'clock. It's enough to make you squint when you look up now. The studio is still dark, but it's not as dark as it was. You can see a lot better. And see, just with that small amount of ambient light, the camera auto corrects to make pretty good video. I mean, I don't really need to put extra light on at this point for video purposes, because the camera will auto balance and pull enough light to work. But if I turn the light on the same way, now it's really bright. See, I get quite a bit of glare now. And this is the difference 2 hours makes. And so I usually work under a light all day long. Same thing with the bust here at the front. See, at the front, I don't need any extra light for video, even though it's a little dark for me to work without a light. And if I turn the light on her, it just wipes her out. So it's really important to be able to control your light. Now, this light is just a 3-footed lamp with an iron bar, piece of 1/2-inch rod with a wing nut. I've bent a little gooseneck on it, and I've got one single floodlight. Now, I've tried, sometimes I work with a daylight bulb. I'll show you one other accessory I've got for this lamp. This is an extension, and I have a hole drilled in this to where I can take this rod out and drop it into the end of this pipe and stick a pin through it. And I can raise that light up, you know, another 4 feet and have it way up high to give me a different character of light. I can have it really high. Now, I've got daylight bulbs that I use that are much less than this halogen incandescent light. This is a 150-watt bulb. I'm going to be frustrated if the people that are saving the world make these completely unavailable, because the problem with the benefit of this light, and I wish I could, you know, mitigate the glare enough to show you, but this has a single source of light in the center because it has a filament. When you put an LED bulb in here instead, it has an array of small LED bulbs. And what that does, that creates a lot of light, but it also creates a lot of shadows, a lot of sources. And so those shadows wipe each other out. And so there's maybe a gain of overall lighting, but there's a loss of shadow because you don't have light emanating from one source. You have it shooting forward from a whole bunch of sources. And when you're trying to do something that's in relief, it's really tough because it washes a lot of the shadow off your job. Now, I've been trying to get her balanced out better because in the video she didn't look right, and from down below, her eyes are more balanced now, her face is more balanced. We tend to exaggerate some of the feature. I got to fix the corner of her mouth. The right corner still isn't equal with the left corner, but she's closer to looking more natural from a variety of perspectives. But with the lighting, and my camera stand, same thing. We've got it's an old dressmaker stand, and I put a single floodlight on there that I can run up and down, and I just use it to mount my camera. But this allows me, if I want to have more than one light going on, I can do that. You'll just find as you work in your studio, if you do this type of work, that lighting is really difficult. And it isn't necessarily as difficult for you. The problem is if you have too much lighting, you can't control it by closing the door or blocking the light, like if you've got lots of windows. But when you do video, she's over here, this is grainy a little bit. But I'll come back, it's 10 o'clock now, just after 10 in the morning, and I'll come back in just, probably a couple hours and show you again how much this lights up, just to show you the light conditions in my studio. Like I said, glare is one thing, no video is something else. Now take a look. It's about noontime. The sky's cleared up. We got full sun. now it ends up looking dark in the studio. To walk in, you don't need any light at all to see her, work on her, or to see this, work on this, at least in terms of the video. Now, if I was actually working on this clay, I'd probably still have a light on part of the time, because you can see how the sun will wash out stuff just on its own. And I have to be able to see what I'm doing. So you have to be able to work with your light, and then, you know, it's 11:45 right now. And in a couple hours, I'll end up with so much light that I won't be able to see. If I work with the stone facing the door, where it's totally bright, it'll be all bright, shining around it, and I won't be able to see what I'm doing because I'll have so much light coming around the stone. But that doesn't work either. So there's a lot to it. You got to think about it, and you got to do what works. And especially if you're if you're working and not just doing something for an example or a video. And you know, we talked about this with a couple of video producers just the other day, and you know, they were saying they don't know how they could capture this because I don't do retakes. You know, once I do something, especially when it's in stone, it's committed. There's no going back. There's no you know, take two, take three. It's a one-shot deal. So this is how it ends up looking, and this is still, the light's probably a little light in here, a little dark, I mean, for me to work and really see, because I don't have a lot of shadows. The camera brightens this up a lot. My hand isn't that pink in real life. So if you're concerned about the way the light looks, come to studio. Learn how to use the light to your advantage, to your benefit. Otherwise, there's only so much you can do. Now it's about 2 o'clock. The sun's almost right in front of the doors. This is pretty much my ideal light when I want good light in studio. And studio is much brighter. You can see how far the sun's coming in on the floor. And we don't really get into a lot of bounce yet, but it lights everything pretty well. And even back here in the back, with the balance on the camera, it makes for a perfect video. This is pretty much ideal. This is a little brighter than what I see because she's very well shaded on the back side over here. The natural light, the camera picks up enough light to sort it out. So, but we'll go and see the lights coming in. It's about 6 feet in the door right now, and it'll travel in more, and by an hour and a half, the light will be further in, almost the end of this piece of plywood, and it'll really start to bounce. So it gives you a little idea on light in studio. My name's Clint Button here at Carolina Sculpture Studio with a virtual stone carving apprenticeship, talking about lighting, how to manage it, whether it's for real life work or for videos to try to make the peanut gallery happy. Thanks for coming in.